Welcome back to Real Talk Twin Cities. I'm Eric Pirius, along with Cheryl Kempenek, Coldwell Banker Burnet, Eric the Loan Guy, Bell Mortgage. Our third segment, we'll be talking with Uriah Houg, the Titan of Title.
Hi Eric, how you doing?
In the red trunks. Out of Maple Grove, Minnesota, he's 34-0. Ladies and gentlemen, Uriah of Executive Title.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's nice to be back again. It's been a little while since I was here, so thanks you for the warm welcome.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And Uriah is another one of our regular partners who will be joining us every week with some great tips for making sure you're clear to close.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, guys.
Knockout tips from what I
Knockout
hear.
tips. Yeah, I mean, we're going to start strong and
Yeah.
just keep going up from there.
That's right. So once again, Uriah is from Executive Title, and he's a trusted partner here at RealTalkTwinCities.com. And the title company is sort of this unheralded glue of every transaction. They handle the sell side, the buy side. They work with the lender. They'll work with banks in the case of a foreclosure,
Yeah.
and the county. You record the mortgage, make sure that the mortgage is clear, so they do the title exam, and provide a title insurance. So we do a whole lot really make it happen, and handle the money, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like you said, we are the glue of the transaction.
That's right, that's right. And so, not surprisingly, you want to work with a good title company, not only cost effective, in other words, I've compared 20 different title companies, and I know that you guys are the most aggressive on pricing, so that's great.
I don't like to say cheapest because I think cheap
And I
kind
didn't,
of is one
as
of
you
those.
may have noticed.
I know, and I appreciate that immensely, Eric. We're very cost effective. I mean, for what we do, the services that we provide for our clients, the amount of work that we put into any given transaction, it doesn't exceed or mirror what you guys have to do on a daily basis. But we definitely work hard for our clients to make sure that their interests are best taken care of, and that their needs are met through the transaction. So.
And we mentioned that the title tips, or actually I mentioned that, and
Yeah.
you being the Titan of Title.
Yeah.
From the say for a seller's standpoint, what are some things that because I know that I've noticed that some issues that related to title kind of get held up to the last minute, and there's just a scramble. So what's to avoid stress and avoid scramble at the end? What are some things from the sell side they might be able to help people with?
Well, the funny thing about the title transaction, the actual closing, is it's not just, while it happens over the course of a half hour to an hour, it takes a lot to put it together and get it to come together the way it needs to at that table. One of the things that we've been seeing a lot from our sellers lately is that with the holidays coming up and there's been a real focus on other things, making sure that families' needs are met, that kind of stuff, that we've had a difficulty getting information from our sellers, and that's a situation where Donna, you and Cheryl help us out immensely in that we'll request information from our sellers, asking them for interested information about interested parties, if there's account information for open mortgages, that kind of stuff. If there's any other pertinent information, as Cheryl, you and I were talking about earlier, about easements, that kind of stuff. Other interested parties is a big one that we've been seeing a lot of these days, where even a couple years ago, moms and dads were buying their kids homes and are on title, and we need information for them as well, including social security numbers, that kind of stuff. The quicker we get that information, the more likely we are to be able to clear up any potential problems that may arise in the future. So good communication between sellers and their title company is very important. And if we understand sometimes that we are not the face that shows up and helps you through the transaction to begin. So if you're more comfortable working with your realtor, Donna, Cheryl in that case, that they would be an excellent point of contact to start with.
Some of the things that people don't realize that can come up is, one of my clients recently was going through a divorce. They'd actually just been divorced, and they were arguing with their attorney over marital assets and who's going to get how much at closing, and they don't realize that this is actually impacting the closing date and the amount of time that needs to go into this, and that can create a delay. Or probate. Sometimes we'll have somebody sign a listing agreement or a purchase agreement, and they might be the executor,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not even telling us, that it's a probate situation and that can cause delays in the end, or suddenly they decide they don't want to be at closing, and now we're dealing with the power of attorney, and all of these things that make us scramble, and they end up on your lap.
Correct, and we usually find them out with 24 hours left to go, and it kind of provides for a nice dance towards the end, making things a little bit, to appear as smooth as we possibly can. You bring up divorce, and I saw a news story the other day about the fact that there are more divorces filed right after the first of the year, after the holidays, than any other time. And divorces is, it's one of those situations where people aren't typically on the same page moving forward. As much conversation as we can have up front, and and not to be too blunt about it, but as many adults in the room as we can get, it's always nice to help and have that conversation, because we see this every day and we don't like it, but this is part of our job, is dealing with tough situations and making them come off pretty smooth.
And that's one thing where a listing agent with experience can help out from the beginning. If we understand
Yes.
the divorce situation, we'll make sure that you're getting an estimate of proceeds when you're getting your purchase agreement and you're doing the negotiations. So then you can be planning well in advance for how you are going to be splitting those proceeds.
Yeah.
So communicate often and early with your
Yes.
agent and or the title company if you're a seller, to avoid last minute complications.
With everything in life,
Right.
the worst thing you can ever do is avoid answering the question up front. My
Yeah.
dad always taught me, do the thing that you least want to do first in the day. That way you
makes
don't have to
sense.
do it again.
And then buyers, I know you were mentioning, a tip for a buyer might be to,
My biggest tip for a buyer would be to go over your settlement statement.
Right.
That would be with all of the qualified individuals, especially with your
The
loan
lender,
guy, Eric.
right.
I mean, that he's going to have the best answers for you. He's
Yep.
going to know exactly what you need to know. We see a lot of people who come to the closing table who don't really understand what they're doing or what they're paying for. And while I can do a good job of explaining it
Right.
to you, the person who's going to best know how the transaction was set up for you is the person who's doing your loan. In this case, Eric.
Yep.
He'll go through all those numbers with you and make sure everything is what you expect it to be.
Yep. 2 or 3 days before closing, go through the settlement statement in a relaxed fashion, maybe at work or at home, versus the pressure of at closing.
Yeah, well, and it's important to know what you're paying for ahead of time. I mean, I don't like to go into a big transaction, purchasing a car, not knowing what to expect.
Right.
A house is 3 times your average car, so if
Right.
not more.
Good advice. Thank you, Uriah. You
My
titan
pleasure.
of title, you.
I appreciate it. I was hoping for that music to come back. It was very inspiring. There it is. That's what I was hoping for.
Okay, and
It's executive title. You can find them in Philadelphia at the top of those stairs next to that statue.
You should see my arms raised right there. And if anybody needs to get a hold of me, of course, I'm always available for any questions for your listeners as well. My name again is Uriah Houg, is my last name. 612-741-7150 is my cell phone number. Always best way to get a hold of me. I have it on me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yes, I do answer on the weekends, as everybody can attest.
that's great. And the thing too that all of you buyers and sellers need to keep in mind, whoever your agent is recommending or your lender might be recommending for title or other partners to the transaction, you are in control. You get to make that decision as far as who you're selecting for title work, and it's always a great idea to compare rates with your lender and also your agent.
Right.
Don't forget, we give out free $479 towards your closing costs, and we associate ourselves with the best and the most economical partners that we can find. So we strongly recommend that you work with Uriah of Executive Title and of course Eric the Loan Guy. And if you would have taken Elisa's advice last year, you might not be headed for divorce.
Whoa,
Harsh.
whoa, we're going.
It's all about the money,
It
isn't
is. It is.
It is.
Or the young chick.
Yep. I know. I can only help with one of those situations.
Real Talk Twin Cities, we are your friends and partners in all things real estate. And you can get a hold of all of our partners, Elise Wealth Management, Uriah with Title, realtalktwincities.com, and Ask the Expert. You can submit a question. It's free. You'll get an answer from an expert in your field. We have your Ask the Expert coming up next segment with Elise, some questions there. And we mentioned FHA earlier in the show, Cheryl. And you know, a lot of what is FHA? What FHA conventional? There's two kinds of loans, right? FHA means government sponsored, and it's really you sponsored, not surprisingly, but it's insured by the government, and conventional loans aren't. So there might be private mortgage insurance in that world, or government mortgage insurance in the FHA world. And typically speaking, if you have low credit and low down payment, you have to use FHA. But things are changing.
Wow, that's a surprise.
Yeah, actually pretty significantly. So next segment,
Can't
we
wait to
will
hear.
revisit the FHA versus conventional to help with decision making in that department. We'll be here with Ask the Expert from Elise of Azure Wealth Management. A couple other things from the real estate side when we come back on Real Talk Twin Cities, AM 1280 The Patriot.